we're getting more and more of a taste of how Trump is going to handle the Senate, where he has only a 52-48 majority and where some of his 52s are pretty unreliable supporters or outright opponents. Rather than come up front and say he wants to end the filibuster and require 51 votes to pass ordinary legislation or to confirm Supreme Court judges, he seems to be leading with a proposal. That is, he's going to name a Supreme Court candidate in the next 2 weeks. He's submitting a raft of good legislation to the Congress and waiting for the Senate to act on it. And as the backlog piles up because of the filibuster, the pressure to end the filibuster will grow. In particular, the pressure will grow on the Republican senators because all of their constituents are going to be very anxious for the approval of the new Supreme Court justices, or justice. And the pro-life people will be involved. Those who are against the expansion of the federal government will be involved. Those who want photo ID for voting rights will get into the act. Every concern that you have that's before the Supreme Court will become sharper and sharper with the appointment of an unconfirmed judge by President Trump. And the pressure on Republicans to end the filibuster, to repeal the filibuster, will be enormous. And eventually all of these waffling senators who say, oh, I don't like the filibuster, but we need to keep it for the future to protect ourselves if the Democrats take over the Senate, they're going to be swept aside because everybody will see the immediate importance of confirming this Supreme Court judge to give conservatives a clear majority and of passing legislation that is central to the Trump agenda. And at that point, it'll become easier and easier to sweep aside the filibuster. By the same token, the Democrats will be hesitant to oppose the Trump measures and oppose the Trump nominee because if they make manifest their decision to have a filibuster, they simply encourage the Republicans to terminate it. And those two dynamics begin to take effect once it's not an abstract debate over the filibuster, but the filibustering of a real candidate for the court or real pieces of legislation that are before Congress. You know from my previous videos, if you've been kind enough to watch them, that I believe the filibuster is absolutely crucial here. I think Trump can't make any progress unless he reduces to 51 the number of votes he needs to pass a bill, or 50, counting Vice President Pence. And the arguments for retaining the filibuster are ridiculous. What happens if the Democrats take over the Senate? Yeah, well, if they do, they do. But the Republicans will still have the House, certainly until 2020, and then the reapportionment will largely be in the hands of the Republican Party that controls the state houses and the state legislatures, a vast majority of them all over the country. So the lines will be redrawn to Republican favor, which will keep Republican control of the House through 2030. And we'll have the White House for 4 to 8 years at least. So what do we need the filibuster for? But gradually, I think Trump is going to make progress and force an end to the filibuster, both because of the Democratic extremism in applying it and the enthusiasm of the Republican base to expedite his nominees and his agenda.